morning. Thanks for joining us on the press right here from our live studio in Abuja, the way we do it Monday to Fridays. My name is Anire Binitie. It is always wonderful. It's a joy. It's a pleasure knowing that you were there waiting for the show. It gives me the greatest peace and happiness because the program again was created for you, as we discuss issues on the front pages of our papers. And of course, those issues that we discuss are issues that affect you and I as Nigerians. And when we have the chance, we do bring stories from across the seas. But today, our focus shall be totally Nigeria, if only you stick with us from beginning to the end of the show. Yes, I have one of my guests in. I expect the other to come. Again, if you follow me on my beat, you will know, and if you live in Abuja, it's been raining lions and elephants and rhinoceros and just name it. Just imagine the biggest animal in the forest or those that are extinct. That is the way it is raining this morning. But like I love to say, the show must go on, and I'm here despite the weather. And of course, I have this history of my guests bailing on me anytime it rains. But I'm glad to let you know that I have one of the two, and I expect the other. On the show, we start with the weather report. We move on to the front pages of the papers. And of course, we'll take a break to bring in our guests to analyze some of the issues on the front pages of our papers. And somewhere between the mix, we open the phone line so you can call in. Like I do on the show, I always love to remind you, if you call anytime before you see the phone lines on your screen, then it's not possible that I pick the calls. Because it's not okay. It's not that we are, we are ignoring you. It's just that we have a time for everything on the show, and we have cases where callers call in despite the information given. I have like 20 missed calls when we're not ready to pick calls, so you get exhausted, and when it is time for the calls to begin to come in, you do not call again. Please, we do not want today to be such a case or situation where you call before you see the phone lines, and when the phone lines are open, you're so angry or exhausted and you do not call in. All right, let us start the show with our weather report this morning, and we start with Delta State. Did I tell you my name? My name is Anire Binitie. Okay, so Delta is first on the weather this morning, and Delta started at 24 degrees Celsius by 9 a.m. About now, it has risen to 25 degrees Celsius. By 10 a.m., we expect it to rise to 26 degrees. By 11 a.m., 27. And by 12 p.m., 28 degrees, and by 1 p.m., 29. Apparently, it's just going to go on and on like that for Delta today. Cloudy conditions are expected, although rainy conditions will start around 2 p.m. with wind gusts up to 12 miles per hour. Highs at 29 degrees Celsius and lows at 23 degrees Celsius. And away from Delta, let us go straight on now to Bayelsa. Bayelsa this morning also started at 24 degrees Celsius by 9 a.m. About now, it is 25 degrees. By 10 a.m., it will rise to 26. By 11, 27 degrees. 12 p.m., 28. It will maintain the same status by 1 p.m. And only God knows what will happen after 1 p.m. But this is what we have for Bayelsa this morning. Rainy conditions are expected around 2 p.m. also, with wind gusts up to 14 miles per hour. Highs at 28 degrees and lows at 23 degrees. Away from Bayelsa, let us go on now to Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt this morning, there will be drizzles there. Drizzling expected. Cloudy conditions are expected around 10 a.m. Wind gusts are up to 15 miles per hour. About now, it is raining in Port Harcourt, just like it is in Abuja at 30% of rain right now at 25 degrees Celsius. By 10 a.m. is expected to rise to 26. It will maintain the same for 11 a.m. but will rise further to 27 for 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. But the rain percentage will differ at 35% at 12 p.m. and 40% at 1 p.m. Okay, away from Port Harcourt, let us jet off now to Imo. Imo is 24 degrees at daybreak. It was 24 degrees at daybreak. Now, by this time, 9 a.m., it's 24 degrees, same, but will rise to 25 degrees by 10 a.m. However, by 11 a.m., it's expected to rise to 27, 12 p.m., 28, and by 1 p.m., it will maintain the same status. Rainy conditions are expected around 2 p.m., with wind gusts up to 13 miles per hour. Highs at 28 degrees and lows at 23. Enugu is up next. Enugu is about 24 degrees right now, 9 a.m. By 10 a.m. is expected to rise to 25 degrees Celsius. By 11, 27 degrees. By 12, 28 degrees, maintaining same at 1 p.m. Rainy conditions are expected around 2 p.m. Wind gusts are up to 19 miles per hour. Enugu has its highs at 29 degrees and lows at 23 degrees. Away from Enugu, let us go straight on now to Abuja. Let us take a look at Abuja. Abuja this morning is rainy. I told you already. Cloudy conditions expected around 1800 hour. Wind gusts are up to 13 miles per hour. You can see Abuja right there. The rain this morning, I tell you, it took me a canoe and a flying boat to get to work. About now, it is 65% of rain, which will cut across till 11 a.m., but will drop a little bit by 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. to 60% of rain. By 10 a.m., it will be 23 degrees Celsius. It will maintain same at 11 a.m., but will rise to 24 at 12 p.m. and 25 for 1 p.m. So that is Abuja, highs at 25 degrees and lows at 21. Okay, let us move on to Kano. Kano this morning. Kano, the weather, I can't believe that we're going to have some rain in Kano today. It started raining already in Kano by 9 a.m. About now, it is 23 degrees Celsius. It will rise to 25 for 10 a.m. By 11 a.m., it will be 26 degrees. By 12, 27, and by 1 p.m., 28. Cloudy conditions are expected around now, with wind gusts up to 10 miles per hour. Highs at 28 degrees Celsius and lows at 22. Away from Kano, I know we have Kaduna somewhere. Let me quickly look for Kaduna. There you have it. Kaduna is up next. Rainy conditions will continue all day in Kaduna. Wind gusts are up to 11 miles per hour. Right now in Kaduna, it is 60% of rain at 22 degrees. By 10 p.m., it will rise to 23 degrees, maintaining the same 60% status of rain. By 11 a.m., 23 degrees. By 12, 24, maintaining same for 1 p.m. But the rain will decrease by 1 p.m. to 55%. Highs at 25% and lows at 21. All right, this morning we have the weather report for Benue. Benue this morning, cloudy conditions are expected around 1500 hour. That's about 3 p.m. Okay, right, if I'm correct. Wind gusts are up to 15 miles per hour. About now, it is 24 degrees Celsius in Benue at 45% of rain. By 10 a.m., it is expected to rise to 25 degrees at 40% of rain. By 11, 26 degrees at 35% of rain. However, at 12, it will rise a notch up to 27 degrees at 40% of rain. It will rise to 28 by 1 p.m., but for a percentage of rain to 35 degrees. Highs at 28 degrees and lows at 23. We have Jos this morning also, away from Kaduna. Let us go straight on, from Benue, I beg your pardon. Let us go on now to Jos this morning. Cloudy conditions are expected around 1700 hour. Wind gusts are up to 7 miles per hour in Jos. Highs at 23 degrees Celsius and lows at 18 degrees. Meanwhile, it is 19 degrees right now in Jos. By this time, 9 a.m., at 40% of rain. By 10 a.m., it's expected to rise to 20 degrees at 40% of rain. 11 a.m., 21 degrees, 12 p.m., 22 degrees, and 1 p.m., 23. And it's just going to go on and on like that. The rain percentage-wise will rise 5% up to 45% by 1 p.m. and I expect that the rains will just go on and on like that. Okay, we've just been told that we have Lagos. Lagos just popped up. Let us go back now and take Lagos. I was actually looking for Lagos. We have Lagos right now. Rainy conditions are expected around this time in Lagos, around 9 a.m. Wind gusts are up to 70 miles per hour. But right now in Lagos, it is 25% at 15% of rain. 25 degrees at 15% of rain. By 10 a.m. is expected to rise to 26 degrees, maintaining the same 15% of rain, which will cut across to 1 p.m. But by 11, it's expected to rise to 26 degrees Celsius. By 12, 27, maintaining the same for 1 p.m. So there you have it, our weather report this morning. If your state was mentioned, most of the states this morning is going to be very rainy. You already know that Abuja this morning is something else, I tell you. Rainbows, shower cabs, raincoat, canoe, just name it, everything to get to work and make it happen. All right, let us move on now as we are done with our weather report to our newspaper front pages this morning. And this morning, what better way to start than to begin with Vanguard? I was actually looking for Punch, but I have a Vanguard right here. So let's take a Vanguard newspaper this morning. And it says, PDP zones presidency to South says APC won't play fair. That's our front page this morning of the Vanguard. We have riders this morning. Let's see if my old weary eyes can pick up these tiny fonts. Says retains existing zoning arrangements, confirms Damagum, national chairman. Says APC can't play fair. We didn't micro-zone leadership position, says Governor Dewey. And now NWC signed letter to INEC. Enugu play to Taraba governors not defecting to APC, says Mohammed. Zoning presidential ticket to South too late, Wike's aide tells PDP. All right, we have more on the front page of the Vanguard. Above the mast, Premium Trust Bank meets 200 billion naira capital requirement. That's on business away from politics. Family Lagos hospitals clash over patients withheld remains, ICU charges. Away from that, 5 journalists among 20 killed in Israeli strikes on Gaza hospital. That's a very sad one. That's on the international fort. That story continues on page 8. Okigwe massacre. Police go after assassins. That's on page 11. Crisis looms in varsities over salary structure review. This is going to be our focus of discussion this morning on the press. We do want you to be part of the show. So when the phone lines are open, you too can have your say. All right, let us go on. State of the Nation. Minister Ezekwesili clash at NBA Confab. And on sports, 2026 WCQ, Eagles good enough to beat Rwanda, South Africa, Lowell. All right, that is the front page. I think we have another story, just international syndicates exploit security gaps to steal crude, says NNPCL boss. That's an old story. Okay, let us move away now to this day newspaper. This day newspaper says, Jonathan Obi PDP as party's next zones presidency to South. Wike has been vindicated, says media aide. Damagum confirmed substantive national chair. Above the mast, NUPRC, Nigeria's crude oil production rose 10% year-on-year to 1.71 million barrels per day in July. NMPC's Ojulari says syndicates exploit security gaps to steal Nigeria's oil. Of course, there's the Israeli strike story where Reuters, AP, Al Jazeera, other journalists in Gaza were killed. All right, still on this day, at Made in African CDS Summit, Tinubu pushes for new African defense doctrine. In 1 week, INEC's online pre-registration hits 1,379,342. And Lagos State, like I learned, is one of the states at the forefront of registration. So we advise, please go out and do the needful. Okay, away from this day, let us move on now to the Daily Independent. The Daily Independent newspaper, excitement over 35G wanes as it faces investment challenges. Only 5 million subscribers connected in 3 years. Mafab dormant. Right, that is more or less like a business story. Above the mast, FAC 2 trillion naira record surge linked to fiscal reforms, oil windfall. Beside that, terrorism threat can't be tamed in isolation, says Tinubu. Very true. You failed your parties, Nigerians, APC mocks PDP governors. Lawyers hail Mba's transformative leadership giant strides in 2 years. We've reduced crime by 80%, invested in infrastructure, education. Mba, to deny your transformative leadership will be sinful. Ozekome, page 29. Nigeria-Brazil set for direct air link. Tinubu Keyamo sign Barca in Brazil. PDP governors tackle ADC for criticizing their Zamfara meeting. PDP zones 2027 presidency to South, chairmanship to North. Confirms Damagum as substantive chairman. Holds next NEC meeting on October 15th. SAN, who accuses federal government of introducing salary disparity in varsity system. Page 6. Okay, away from the Daily Independent, up next is the Leadership newspaper. Leadership is also on politics. The screaming headlines is the PDP story. PDP's zoning of presidential ticket to South sparks comments. Federal government signs Barca agreement for direct flights to Brazil. The Leadership also has the story. Okay, 3 dead, 17 rescued as boat capsized in Bronu. This is, I don't know what's going on in that area. Recall we had the boat mishap in Sokoto, and again, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, there was another, just before we're recovering from the first one, another happened. And this morning we're having a report from Bronu. I don't know what's going on. I think those in charge need to take a look at the problems. Usually we have overloading, and the question I ask is, before these ships or boats, I beg your pardon, before these boats actually sail out of, wherever they're sailing from to the destination they're going, do they not see that they are overloaded? I didn't know. I'm trying to wonder, or I'm wondering if you don't have people at this point who can actually prevent these accidents or incidents from happening by ensuring that these boats are not overloaded. Do you understand? So for us to keep having, these accidents or incidents or mishaps happen again and again, and no solution, especially when lives are involved, it's really heartbreaking. We just hope that those in charge, do the needful so we do not get reports like this every day. All right, away from that, parties accept mediation in Abia land dispute. Now, reactions as Atiku declares presidential bid. Wow. Okay, that story continues on page 29. Asuu begins nationwide protest, demands action on withheld salaries. All right, let us move on to more papers. The matrix is up next. Let us take a look at the matrix. The matrix is also on the PDP story. 2027, PDP slams door against Atiku, paves way for Obi's return. We became stronger after you left PDP, governors mock Atiku. Others, why I want to contest again in 2027, Atiku. That's on page 2. Away from that outrage as Nkubi's wife exposes man who advised her to kill daughter. Ooh, this is not, we're going to move away from that story. Not the type I would want to read this morning. Dajo resigned voluntarily, not under pressure, Benue Assembly. Police rescue 5 kidnapped victims, neutralize 5 suspected kidnappers. And on football or soccer or sports, APL, 16-year-old Ngumoha scores a 110th minute winner as Liverpool beat Newcastle. Okay, away from the matrix, let us go now to the Daily Times. The Daily Times is still on the PDP story. PDP zones 2027 presidential ticket to South, confirms Damagum chairman. NDLEA bust drug syndicate at Kanu Airport. NMPCL nears 100% pipeline efficiency. GCEO. Okay, we have more APC to PDP. 2 governors. Let me get this again. APC to PDP governors. You failed yourselves, party citizens. Page 2. Tinubu aviation minister signed landmark Barca agreement in Brazil. NIMET DG6 climate smart PPP to end agro-infrastructure development risk. Page 4. WHO 47 African countries kick off health ministers regional forum. All right, let us move on now to the News Direct, Nigerian News Direct this morning. The Nigerian News Direct still has the PDP story, PDP zones 2027 presidency to South as NEC decision aligns with Wike's 2022 G5 recommendations. Ex-presidential candidate warns of parties' disunity, constitutional risks. Nigerians have already rejected PDP, says the APC. Race for new Awujale begins as Ogun governor meets with kingmakers. Away from that, Governor Adeleke behind local government workers' continued strike withheld allocations in Osun, APC alleges. FinTech 2025, Fidelity Bank set to host strategic panel on unlocking capital. Next to that, international syndicates behind crude oil theft in Nigeria, Ujulari. All right, we have more papers. Let us take a look at The Guardian as they pop up. That's the way I'm going to read it this morning. The Guardian newspaper says 2027, Atiku signals interest as PDP heads for showdown with Tinubu. Page 6. Above that, U.S. defends new social media vetting for visa applicants. Lagoon crash. Page 8. 795 financial institutions among 1,369 firms facing data breach probe. Southwest leads a new voters exercise as Southeast records lowest turnout. Federal government introduces mandatory ethics criminal screening for teachers. ICPC recovers 1.1 billion naira from Kanu official as state dismisses claim. Manufacturers lament as return of FOB levy causes a stir. Okay, let us go to the Voice of Liberty. The Voice of Liberty this morning, northern patients running out, ACF warns federal government. Federal government warns of flooding in 9 northern states. why Obasanjo hated Buhari, Garba Shehu. Federal government, state governments building flyovers to nowhere while people starve. Pat Utomi. I'll take that again. Federal government, state governments building flyovers to nowhere while people starve. Pat Utomi. No investor will trust a nation where politicians control the courts. Jonathan. Daily Trust is up next. Daily Trust is still on the PDP story 2027. PDP shuts out North. How drug syndicate framed 3 Nigerians detained in Saudi Arabia. Federal government issues fresh flood alert to 9 northern states. Beside that story, ECOWAS to raise 260,000 counter-terrorism brigades. Residents flee as bandits attack Niger Kwara. The Nigerian Tribune is up next. Battle for 2027 takes shape as PDP zones presidential ticket to South. The Nigerian Tribune. Away from that, reintroduction of 4% FOB levy worries man. Insecurity, ECOWAS to deploy 260,000 counter-terrorism brigade. All right, let us move on now to the Daily Monitor. The Daily Monitor still has the PDP story, so I will just go below. Says APC to PDP, accept by-election results as a voter rejection. Then up next is a blueprint. Let us take a look at the blueprints this morning. The blueprint also has the PDP story. PDP affirms the Bagum substantive chair zones presidential ticket to South, accuses APC of intimidation, fixes 103rd neck for October 15th. Forget 2027, Nigeria won't return to dark era, ruling party. About 1,000 terror groups operate in Africa. Gambari, CDS, Musa, 6 continents-led security architecture. And finally on the Punch this morning, 2027 presidency, Makinde, others to fight for PDP ticket. Party zones, 2027 ticket to South. OB may consider PDP return, say obedience. APC insists opposition will lose in 2027. Military retirees demand pay raise, national honors. Despite federal government's promise, Ekiti Ondo, federal roads still impassable. Power generation stuck at 5,500 megawatts as Bayelsa gets regulatory authority. All right, that's how much we can take on our front pages this morning. Yes, the show is still on. We take a short break to return with our guest as we take a look at Asuu this morning. The front page of the Daily Sun is where we actually got focus this morning. Asuu warns of looming crisis, accuses federal government of delayed tactics, says tertiary institutions loan poison chalice unacceptable. This when we return. Stay with us.
In a world where information is vital to every individual, a platform where technology is a medium to pass information, you can always catch up on all information written in the newspapers, even without having one. Join us on The Press.
Reaching you live from the Abuja studios.
On The Punch for this morning. The Blueprint newspaper, Nigerian Tribune this morning.
As we give you information and opinions about current events and topical issues on politics, business, sports, entertainment, weather forecasts, and lots more in the local city, across all states, and across all countries. Showing daily on StarTimes, channel 124, 9 a.m. West African time, only on KAFTAN TV. Stay connected with us.
That he said it is a reason why I will not do it.
I pursue the federal government to pay us our damages.
YouTube, KAFTAN TV.
A very tricky one. And then the bottom line is this.
Website www.kaftan.tv.
Point is, the youth must come together. The pendulum can swing in your favor.
Instagram, KAFTAN_TV. KAFTAN TV. Imagine a beautiful world.
In the beginning, God created a beautiful world.
3, 2, 1. Action.
And that's why, at KAFTAN Television,
we imagine a beautiful world.
We are not just bragging.
we blaze the trail in broadcasting.
And it is about you.
At KAFTAN TV, broadcasting is not just about information, education, and entertainment.
It's an aggregation of all you need to know in Nigeria
and around the world to create signal.
At KAFTAN Television, we have all it takes to be on top in broadcasting.
Our mission is simple: to project Africa in a truthful yet positive manner.
Wait, we're coming to you in style.
Here we are, starting from September.
Look at what the facts are.
And as you say on KAFTAN TV, imagine a beautiful world.
In the beginning, God created a beautiful world.
3, 2, 1. Action.
And that's why, at KAFTAN Television,
we imagine a beautiful world.
We are not just bragging.
we blaze the trail in broadcasting.
And it is about you.
At KAFTAN TV, broadcasting is not just about information, education, and entertainment.
It's an aggregation of all you need to know in Nigeria
and around the world to create signal.
At KAFTAN Television, we have all it takes to be on top in broadcasting.
Our mission is simple: to project Africa in a truthful yet positive manner.
Wait, we're coming to you in style.
Here we are, starting from September.
Look at what the facts are.
And as you say on KAFTAN TV, imagine a beautiful world.
Yes, welcome back once again. Thanks for your patience all this while. As we're about to start now with our discussion, I have a guest in the house, and I did tell you before the break that we shall be taking a look at Asuu. Now, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Asuu, has accused the federal government of deliberate foot dragging and the poor handling of long-standing issues affecting public universities, warning that another round of industrial action may be inevitable. Now, Asuu has also warned that they are going to have peaceful demonstrations in some parts starting from Ibadan today. Asuu will commence a peaceful mass protest nationwide from today, August 26, to press home their demands. Long peace, like they said, that the long peace that that they've experienced in universities so far was as a result of their patience and expectations that government would honor its promises. Now, what they're asking for is the renegotiation of the 2009 Asuu federal government agreement, outstanding salary arrears, withheld promotions and welfare of retired lecturers. These are some of the demands that they are making today. So to help us discuss this morning, I have a friend in the house. She has become one of us right here on the press. She is Uchenna Obidike. She is a legal practitioner as well as a social affairs analyst. Uchenna, it's so nice to have you this morning. Usually when it rains heavily, my guests bail on me. I'm glad to let everyone know that you were here. I'm also very happy that you could make it, but the other guests also couldn't make it this morning. Musa, Mamman, Kontagira, wherever you are, if you're watching the show, I don't know why you're not here, but I'll assume it's because of the weather. But again, I appreciate you for accepting to come on the show. We didn't determine how the weather was going to go today, but it is what it is. So our focus this morning is Asuu. The Daily Sun clearly gives a clear detail also of what is expected as Asuu warns of looming crisis, accusing the federal government of foot dragging and, of course, not attending to long-standing issues on ground. You know, it just goes on and on. As a student, a one-time student in Nigeria, I was supposed to graduate in 4 years. I ended up graduating in 5 years, all because of Asuu. I remember the longest break we had for like 4 to 5 months, only for us to get to school for 1 week. We went straight to write our exams, and I don't know, it was a shocker to me. That moment, I can relive that moment in my head, being at home for like 5 months, Asuu strike, getting to school, thinking and wondering where we were going to start from, only for the lecturers to tell us we were writing the exams. Barely, not even after 2 weeks after resumption, we were in class writing examination. And we all know as Nigerians the problems that come when we hear situations like this, not just for the universities, but for students as well as parents. So, Uche, you've been grinning from ear to ear, and I know you have a lot to say. So let us start. Asuu warning of a looming crisis, and of course telling the federal government to wake up to its responsibility, and it's not something that we all wish would happen, but that's what we're having. I want your reaction to this this morning.
Thank you so much, and it's always a pleasure to be here. Now, what Asuu is doing is not crying wolf. Asuu is not crying wolf in this instance. What we are seeing is a familiar pattern. For decades now, Asuu's negotiation with the federal government has always followed a similar pattern. You have the promises, you have delays, partial implementation, then crisis. Now, the federal government always waits until the system is at the brink of collapse before it takes action. To me, and respectfully, that is not negotiation, but delayed tactics. Now, when this happens, what do we see? This results in lost academic years. We have demoralized students and lecturers who pay the price. And I'm in no way saying or implying that the federal government has not taken steps or made efforts towards addressing these issues. But, and I will place an emphasis on the but ad hoc responses without plans for sustainability are only half-baked and would always result in one thing, will yield the same result, crisis. Now you ask yourself, what is at stake? The stakes are enormous. They are very enormous. We have loss of academic years. We have student brain drain in the country, in the educational sector, where you have lecturers and students fleeing abroad. You have over-dependency on foreign education. You have public trust in the federal government further plummeting. Now, the federal government has to treat education as an investment and not as an expense. They have to do that. Why are we having all these strikes? What is the root cause of all the strikes? It is the federal government's neglect or failure to address the issues or resolve the issues which ASU has always raised. What are these issues? Issues about funding, infrastructure, and welfare. So until the federal government starts treating education as an investment, we will always have the cycle where students and lecturers have to suffer. That is the problem. So the federal government has to deal with this with plans aimed at sustainability and not just ad hoc responses. A fair brigade approach, and after that, we don't hear from them again until we are at the brink of another crisis. It cannot work like this, and it is not sustainable.
It is not sustainable.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. So you have it. We've started the show proper. We do want you to stick with us all through the show. When we open the phone lines, we'll try as much as possible to open the phone lines early enough so you can call in and be part of the conversation. Now, let's take a look at the expectation, what ASU is asking for. Even before I reel it out again, at the top of the question is asking if it's too much of ASU to demand such from the federal government. Renegotiation of the 2009 ASU federal government agreement, outstanding salary arrears, withheld promotions, and welfare of retired lecturers. These are some of the demands that ASU is making. And the question I'm asking is, definitely you've taken a stand. I'm asking, do you think ASU is asking for too much? Are you for or against the demands made by ASU? If my other guests had been here, we'll now have an exchange of ideas and responses and reactions on it. But today the spotlight is on you, so I would want you to take a stand. Same question I would have asked both of you. Take a stand on the issue, for or against. The demands that ASU is making is something that is impossible for the federal government to fulfill. And again, the ASU alleging the foot dragging by the federal government. Why do you think that is? So it's like a twin question. Are these demands out of mass, not reachable, achievable? And of course, if you agree or disagree with all of this.
Okay. Whenever ASU resorts to these strikes, it is because the federal government has consistently broken their agreements. Just imagine that we're in 2025 and the 2009 agreement has not been implemented. Imagine running a university system where you have the libraries outdated, where you have labs lacking equipment or staff welfare ignored. So the federal government has to really treat education as an investment. Now you ask, are these demands frivolous? What are they asking for? They are not frivolous. They are asking them to honor their past agreements. And this is like how many years later? Almost 20 years later. This is not right. Because if the federal government continues to do this, the students will continue to suffer. What is ASU asking for? funding, welfare, infrastructure. These things are not things that the federal government cannot address. Yes, when these strikes go on, students continue to suffer. Students suffer, they are the receiving end. But a decaying educational system will also make the students suffer more. So we have to look at the root cause of all these issues, which is the neglect by the federal government. Their neglect and failure to address the issues, all these pending and arising issues. These issues are not things that the federal government cannot tackle. They are not frivolous, they are not unreasonable. They are very reasonable and logical demands that the federal government can reach and meet. But they have decided to treat education as an expense and not as an investment. And that's why we find ourselves here. We have all been through this, and decades later, we still have these issues arising in our nation. And until the federal government stops signing agreements which it cannot honor, fulfill, we will always find ourselves in the cycle.
Now it's strange because Asuu now have said that the relative peace that they've experienced so far in our public universities is as a result of their patience and the expectation. It is really, you know, taking using myself as a yardstick for trying to understand what is on ground, having so much expectation from someone and not getting it fulfilled, especially when I'm patient and waiting and believing that what I expect would come to me. And at the end of the day, I do not have it. I can imagine how they feel. Someone was telling me about how he had to wade in the last Asuu crisis that we had in Nigeria, that he was the one helping the family to feed, pay bills, and it was so bad that the guy was close to becoming suicidal. So as friends, they had to rally around to like support. So I can imagine what lecturers go through, especially retired lecturers who do not have the arrears paid, who most of them depend solely on the job that they do, and of course the ripple effect on the family. And of course, when you have the family affected, the society at large is definitely affected. Now, you talked about federal government taking a look at education as an investment and not as
an expense.
As an expense.
Yes.
What impact do you think this has on our educational system? Federal government saying education not as an investment, but as an expense. What impact, in your opinion, has this had on our educational system thus far? Of course, within the 2009 Asuu federal government agreement, which has not been met till now. We're talking about 20 years after. What impact has this, do you think, in your opinion, this has had on our educational system?
By the federal government's refusal to implement the 2009 agreement, we are feeding a cycle of unemployment and brain drain in the nation. We are feeding a cycle of underskilled graduates. We are making or causing, this is causing our graduate or our students to lose academic years, very painful academic years. We have situations where people have to stay at home doing nothing. And we always know that an idle man is a devil's workshop. In fact, this is a matter of national security. It is not, yes, it's an educational problem, but it's also a matter of national security, because an idle mind is a devil's workshop. When people are home doing nothing, what do you expect them to do? At that stage, they cannot be employed because they are not graduates. We know how the Nigerian employment system is. You have to be graduated unless you have a skill. Are provisions made for skill acquisition for our undergraduates while they are waiting at home for the strike. So these are the issues. The federal government, and we are talking about the youth who are very active and very vibrant.
Especially in these times.
Yes, especially in these times. There's also the problem of inflation. So people want to hurry up, graduate, and take care of their needs and their family's needs. Because as they are growing, their parents are also attaining the age of retirement. We don't want to talk about our government's treatment towards our pensioners. So now, people are in school who are supposed to graduate, as you said, you spend 5 years instead of 4 years in the university. That is 1 whole year.
Wasted.
Yes. So when people are home, what do you expect? Increased crime rates. The federal government is trying to tackle cybercrime, fighting against cybercrime. But the issue, the root cause of all these issues, the federal government's treatment towards substantive and fundamental issues. That is the root cause. If they don't address all these issues, it will birth a lot of issues that will overwhelm the federal government. And this is why we find ourselves here. Thank you.
All right, if you just joined us, it is the press, and yes, my guest is on fire this morning, Uchenna. Please calm down. We'll take a break, and when we return, the phone lines will be open, so you can call in and be part of the conversation. Stay with us. Yes, welcome back. Welcome back. The phone lines are open now. You can call in and be part of the conversation as we take a look at Asuu this morning, as Asuu warns of looming crisis, accusing the federal government of food dragging. Not just that, Asuu is also accusing the federal government of its poor handling of, issues, long-standing issues concerning public universities. They are making demands and asking the federal government to meet the demands that they've made thus far. And they are actually saying that starting today, the 26th of August, they're going to start a peaceful demonstration nationwide to drive their demands home. And if the federal government does not respond positively, then we may just be seeing another, crisis on our hands, which we do not want to happen. The reason why we're taking time to discuss the issues this morning. Please call in. The phone lines are right there on your screen, so you can have your say on the conversation. My guest is still here, Uche, who has given us some points why this has become a problem that needs to be tackled by the federal government. She agrees totally with Asuu taking a stance that indeed the federal government appears to be foot dragging and speaking from both sides of their mouth and not actually facing the situation headlong. She talked about public trust. She mentioned students fleeing abroad, which is educational tourism, and of course asking the federal government to see education as an investment and not something else. Now let us take a look at what Nigerians are facing abroad, especially what they're facing in the United States. Recently we got the report that 60%, was it 60,000 students or 60%? 60,000 students. Look, if the statistics is wrong, I'm not a computer, please bear with me, but I know there's 60 somewhere have been asked to return home. The United States is warning that if students do not attend classes, if they miss classes, then they will revoke their visas. A lot is happening in terms of what is going on with the visa restrictions that the United States has put in place for Nigerian students. Not just in the United States, I'm just thinking about other countries where Nigerian students, after all the monies spent, as they jet out because of our educational system, only for parents or those who often sponsor themselves to be faced with situations like this, it is indeed heartbreaking. My question to you now is, how do we begin to change the narrative? What should be paramount for the federal government at a time like this, especially as the warning is coming early, so we do not wait until there's total chaos and breakdown? What should be the reaction of the federal government with this coming today? Not forgetting that they're going to start a peaceful protest starting today nationwide. We do not even know how long that will last and where it will lead to. Federal government's reaction in a time like this, from your perspective?
You know, charity begins at home. If the federal government works very hard towards implementing all those demands and putting or setting the educational system in a way that we don't have needs for educational tourism. People are always going to be traveling or travel out of Nigeria abroad for education, but people should not travel because of the decaying educational system in Nigeria. So the federal government, for the first one, the federal government has to set up an independent body to pursue the implementation of all these demands. We don't want ad hoc responses, because that is what we have in Nigeria, where they apply the fire brigade approach. They immediately tackle the issue without, you know, in-depth sustainability. We don't want that. So an independent body should be set up to monitor this, implement all this. This is decades long. 2009 and we are in 2025. It doesn't speak well of our nation as a country, and this is a very justifiable reason where we have people embarking on educational tourism. Yes, where they have to face all those things, fleeing their homeland to face all those issues that are avoidable if our educational system is well set. So the federal government has to work hard into honoring its agreements. It's not just by signing, but honoring it. That shows them it's a spirit of it shows a spirit of goodwill from the federal government when it continues to honor its agreements.
Now, before we went on the break, you were talking about this situation actually being one of that is security, national security, where you have students stay at home for a long period of time, and because of crisis, Asuu crisis. I remembered when I was in school, we had I had a share of such a situation where lots of students were killed in one of the Asuu strikes. I attended ECWAMA, Edo State University, which is Ambosali University now. And, you know, Edo State then were at the forefront of Aluta when it comes to Asuu strike, you know, trying to ensure that we push and let the federal government and state government hear our demands. And during that one of those Asuu strikes, we actually lost a lot of students, and we didn't have a fair reportage of the situation. We on ground, those of us students on ground who survived, knew that we lost over or almost 100 students, and the newspapers mentioned just one. We had a situation where a truckload of students were going towards Uromi. I don't want to mention any name. If you attended ECPOMA at that time, you will know exactly what I'm talking about, why they were going to Uromi that early morning, what they wanted to do because of the schools were closed. But of course, none of them returned. And at the end of the day, we had we had bodies on farmlands and or whatnot, and it kept on piling and piling. We didn't have the type of technology that we have now. I'm talking about like 2 million years ago when I was in school. Yeah. So it's a lot where you have students stay at home, rest of youths not doing anything. Of course, the imagination will run riot. We're looking for solutions, and this morning my guest is helping us do that. Let's take a look at retired lecturers at this time, especially those who are still waiting for arrears, waiting for the promises made by government, and yet the light seems to be so dim. A peek into the emotional situation that retired lecturers will be going through, and of course the ripple effect on the family front. And yes, if it affects the family, it definitely affects the society. So let us take a peek, in your opinion, be the voice for the retired lecturers at this time. Uche.
Yes, the way a government or a nation treats its retired pensioners is a reflection of the state of the nation. Now, these are people who dedicated their lives, their youth and service to the nation, and in retirement, they have been abandoned I'm sorry, but I'm going to use the word abandonment because that is what it connotes. If not, why would people who retired in 2009 be fighting for their pension at this point? Why have they been ignored and neglected? And we're talking about crime rate. Their children are at home. The parents are not receiving pension. And we're talking about cyber terrorism. We're talking about cyber bullying. What do you expect their children, the youth, to do when they're supposed to be in school? I've mentioned that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So we'll keep having those issues. People resort to armed robbery if the case demands it, because a hungry man is an angry man. And desperation, when people are desperate, they become desperados. They do anything to survive. Now, look at how the retired lecturers are treated. These are people who have sacrificed in the building up of the Nigerian educational system. These are people who should be honored and revered. But how are they treated? They have been forgotten. So the demands of Asuu are very reasonable and logical. If somebody has failed to fulfill an agreement which is almost 20 years old, you are allowed to be aggrieved. You are allowed to be vexed. And I must say, I must also agree with them that they have been very patient. They have been very patient. This is 2009 to 2025. They have been very patient. So the federal government has to try to honor these agreements in fulfillment of every discussion they've had, not just ad hoc responses where they honor this part, there's partial implementation, there is delay, as we have seen, more than 10 years delay now in fulfilling an agreement of 2009. So if they decide to enter an agreement in 2025, only God knows when they'll honor it. Maybe we'll be fighting for it, or they'll start fighting for it in 2050. And this is not the way forward, Nigeria. Which way, Nigeria? This is not the way forward. So the federal government has to act, treat education as an investment, and implement and honor its agreements.
Its agreement.
Thank you.
Okay, the phones are not, the calls are not coming in. We want you to call in and be part of the conversation this morning. Even if you don't want to talk about Asuu, we read other, we had other very, very important front page stories. You have something different you want to talk about, you want to share with us as a Nigerian, you're free to call in and discuss those. Usually we have a caller who calls from Arochukwu. When he calls in, he goes south of the topic and he just asks his own question and brings up his own topics. Yes. Please call in and be part of the conversation as we take a look at Asuu this morning, as the body warns of looming crisis, accusing the federal government of delayed tactics, of foot dragging, and of not actually attending to long-standing issues the way it should go. We have a call. Hello.
Hello, ma.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Ogbomoso. I am George Adetunji Adifa.
Oh, Ogbomoso. Thank you so much. Yes. Mr. George, go ahead.
Well, we thank God for our guests this morning.
Thank you.
They have spoken very powerfully the mass of good Nigerians. Their demand is legitimate, honestly. But it's unfortunate that our government will wait until things are so bad. I think they are playing politics with everything. And the kind of politics they are playing is politics of making everybody poor, so that we can go cap in hands to beg them for what their right is. I think our sister there has spoken the mind of good Nigerians. And I pray that the government will listen. Are they trying to say that it is when all these people die that they would have come to say the children or post-woman, whatever, which is rubbish. They cannot make everybody poor. I mean, these are people who have trained them. So I thank God for your life and for your station.
Thank you
for
so
sister,
much.
your promised money. You are really educated. It's unfortunate that many of the people are to hear this. They will not hear it. I don't know how your message can get to them. No light.
They are
So
listening.
people
They are
watch
listening. They
television.
are watching. They are listening. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I have
George.
a lot of money that I want other people to call me so that I can learn too.
Thank you
Thank you so much for this wonderful message. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Mr. George. Thank you. All right, that was our first caller. Please keep the calls coming in and be part of the conversation this morning as we take a look at Asuu, because the time is winding down. We will really want your contribution so we can have your feel of the topic from the other side. So Uche, there you have our guest, our first caller calling to commend you for your polls on the present situation, speaking the minds of Nigerians, like he said, you know, that you actually you know, spoke the mind of Nigerians. Now, talking about public trust, when we have situations like this, where the federal government make promises and they don't fulfill their promises, one of the offshoot of situations like this is, according to you, public trust, beside a federal government not seeing education as investment, and of course the educational tourism that we experience in the country. So how important is it for federal government to build public trust, not just for Asuu, not just for on education, but across the board? Because not just, we're talking Asuu now because this is the trending story, but when it comes to public trust and promises made by the federal government, there seems to be no trust in terms of words spoken and action taken. How important is it for any government, not just what we're facing presently, to ensure that they carry their citizens along and actually walk the talk?
No, the public trust in the federal government further plummets. That is if the public still trusts the federal government. Because besides this, there are always a lot of issues where the public has always questioned the integrity of the government. We've had scenarios or cases where people say, oh, I'm not going to vote. They are going to rig it. They'll still put who they, or they'll still select who they want. They are using the word selection, not election now. We've had cases where people say, I don't want to go for that job interview, especially when he applies to federal government jobs. Oh, they're still going to select the people who they want to pick, people who have connections. So this continues. We've had situations where people go for promotion interviews and they're like, well, I've done my best, but I know that the people who are going to pass are the people who want to pass. Is there equal application of rule of law? Somebody does something, he's let to go off the hook, another person does it, the person becomes a scapegoat. So at this point, I doubt, but I stand corrected, the Nigerians trust anything that comes from the federal government.
But how important is it for federal government of Nigeria to begin to build public trust? Do you think it's something that's impossible? Making promises to the citizens who voted you there to serve. And at the end of the day, they get there. What is spoken is not what is done, or the expectations are never met. How important is it for federal government to begin to build public trust, not just on our educational forth, but across all, you know, all facets of society?
They said a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a step. The federal government now has to start implementing and honoring its agreements. When it goes into an agreement, implement it in due time without delays. Not partial implementation, but full implementation. Treat its citizenry with respect and regard, because that is the duty, the welfare, that's the duty of the federal government. The welfare and security of the citizenry is the primary purpose of the government. By the 1999, the provisions of the 1999 Constitution as amended, that's section 14, yes, of the 1999 Constitution as amended. That is the primary duty of the federal government. So all these issues relating to the welfare of the Nigerian citizenry should be tackled. If not, they will birth a lot of issues which cannot or may not be fully controlled by the federal government, issues which will affect our security, our health, our economy, and even our income. So the federal government has to try to honor his agreements and keep to his words.
Interesting. Well, we're almost rounding up on the show this morning. We had just one call. We're expecting to take one more or two if you called in to be part of the conversation. Time is never a friend, and we are almost rounding up. So as we talk about round up, Asuu. Asuu is the reason why we're talking here this morning, the Academic Staff Union of Universities. What do you have for Asuu this morning? If you happen to be, because they're going to be having press conferences today, starting today, even as they also start the nationwide mass protest. If you have an opportunity to be in one of those conferences and you have to speak to the organizers, speak to Asuu directly, which you have here, what would you tell Asuu as they go through this phase with the federal government and, of course, starting the protest this morning? But before you answer, we have a call.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, Hamza from Mina.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Hamza. Go ahead, Hamza.
Yeah, please. Thank you. Please, let me appreciate you, Captain TV.
Thank you.
In particular, our dear barista over there.
Thank you.
In fact, she's very exclusive. She's not only a barista, she is like a leader and a mother who actually can feel the feelings of parents and students. So may God bless you.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
So, and we hope those that are supposed to listen will listen and act immediately.
We hope so too.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Amzad. Thank you so much. I appreciate your call, Amzad, all the way from Mina. So over to you as you address Asuu this morning.
I want to appreciate Asuu. I commend their courage. I commend their tenacity. And I commend their determination for fighting for the betterment of the Nigerian education system. I also commend their patience. It is not easy to wait for over 10 years for the fulfillment of an agreement or a promise. And that is something that many people may not be able to do. So I commend them, and I hope that they continue to fight for the betterment of the Nigerian education system. They should not be intimidated or deterred or bullied. Even if they are bullied, we still commend their courage. So it's good work. They continue to do their good work in Nigeria. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So I want to appreciate you for being on our show this morning.
Thank you.
You know, we actually had Asuu on our minds this morning. You heard all that the guest said. We commend Asuu for their continuous fight for the best in terms of education. Of course, the focus being public universities. Yes, I also want to appreciate my guests who called in. We had two guests that called in, one from Ogbomoso and, of course, the other from Mina. We appreciate you for calling this morning. We do hope that the federal government will do the needful in terms of fulfilling the promises made to Asuu. Of course, sit down with them and renegotiate the 2009 Asuu federal government agreement so they get to a logical conclusion. Of course, outstanding salaries, arrears are paid, and especially for those retired lecturers, and withheld promotions and welfare released to them. You know, though we have retired lecturers, there were those that were waiting for their promotion before they got retired. It never came. We're just saying that the federal government should do the needful so we do not get into the crisis, the impending crisis that has been warned may happen if, you know, they do not sit down and make sure that they get to a logical conclusion on this matter. So that is the show this morning. Tomorrow is another date on the press. We'll do that all through Monday to Friday, and we do want you to be part of the conversation come Wednesday on the press, and of course all through the week. Uche, I appreciate you once again for being on the show this morning.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
My name is Anire Binitie. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye for now.